Ever since Lewis Hamilton left McLaren after the 2012 season, the team has never been able to consistently fight for race wins and championships, but in the last couple of years, they have made some incredible progress in their cars and are fighting for the championship this year. But their decisions during the race have left fans baffled. Respected F1 TV reporter Will Buxton expressed his disappointment towards the team during the post-race session after the Italian Grand Prix. When the 2024 F1 season first started, it looked as though Max Verstappen and Red Bull had it in the bag once again. But before the Miami Grand Prix, McLaren bought some upgrades to the car and it allowed Lando Norris to get his first race win. Since then, he has been consistently fighting with Max for race wins. After the Italian Grand Prix, Lando's gap to Max is just 62 points. There is no doubt that this championship fight is going to go down to the wire. Despite the championship being on the line for Lando, McLaren is not doing much to help him out. During the Italian Grand Prix, McLaren had one hand on the trophy and let it go because of a few stupid mistakes on the pit wall. During the post-race show after the Italian Grand Prix, Buxton said, "Did Oscar pull off one of the moves of the season? 100%. My word, that was a gutsy, brilliantly executed move. But how are McLaren allowing their drivers to be in a situation where they're fighting each other? If you've got a 1-2 in the race, you're protecting that 1-2 because you're looking at the constructors' points that you want to bring in. And then you have to decide which of your drivers is more likely to win the World Championship with 9 races to go. They have the fastest car. Red Bull were on the back foot this weekend, were not looking strong for a podium and, as it turned out, didn't even get a top 5 finish today. In the last race in Monza, Lando was able to secure pole position with Oscar right beside him. During the start of the race, Lando got a good launch and was leading after the first chicane. Ideally, Piastri should have stayed behind Lando and allowed him to take the lead as he is the closest to Max in the championship fight. However, Oscar decided to overtake Lando going into the second chicane. Given that we are in the second half of the championship, McLaren should have spoken to Oscar and ordered him to not overtake Lando if he is leading after the first chicane, but they didn't. When Oscar overtook Lando, it caused the British driver to lose momentum and allowed Charles Leclerc to overtake him as well. There is no doubt that this was a huge blunder by the team. Later in the race, the team made the mistake of having both their drivers pit for a second time, while both the Ferraris stuck to a one-stop strategy, giving them track position. Although the McLarens were able to get past Carlos Sainz, they were unable to get past Leclerc, who went on to win the race. Despite getting a double podium at Monza, there is no doubt that McLaren should have won the race. If they had allowed Lando to stay ahead after the first chicane, both the cars would have been able to stay ahead of the Ferraris throughout the race. This is not even the first time McLaren made a mistake like this. Throughout the season, we have seen the Papaya team make strategic errors that have cost both the drivers valuable points. These strategic errors have also cost the team wins in Silverstone, Montreal and Monza. During the race in Monza, McLaren did give permission to Lando Norris to race Oscar for track position. However, they did say the term Papaya rules, which basically means no risks. But Lando was not able to get too close to Piastri without compromising his tyres, hence they maintained their positions and Piastri came second with Lando in third. Will Buxton's rant included McLaren not prioritising Lando for the championship as well. How are you not prioritising the guy who's going to make the most out of this? How do you not even swap them on the last lap just to get a couple more points? Because you're not going to talk about giving away victory at this point. It's a second place. Does it matter in the overall scheme of things? No, you're still bringing home the same number of points for McLaren, and this has nothing to do with nationality, being British. I just want to see a championship fight. I don't understand what McLaren are doing. I genuinely don't, and I haven't now for months, because none of it makes sense. During Will Buxton's rant on McLaren, he did mention Mark Webber, who was a number 2 driver at Red Bull alongside Sebastian Vettel. During this time, Vettel and Webber had some heated moments where team orders were enforced. To safeguard his driver, Webber could have made it a condition for McLaren to not put Piastri in that position. Webber may want McLaren to treat both their drivers equally. While this may seem fair during the beginning of the season, it may not make sense in this scenario, as Piastri is 106 points behind Verstappen, while Norris is just 62 points behind the Dutch driver. It is obvious that Norris has a better chance of beating Max for the championship, and this is exactly what Will said as well. The only thing that makes sense is that Oscar's contract, maybe somewhere in it, says that he has to have number 1, and this is why Zach keeps on saying we've got 2 number 1 drivers. Mark Webber's his manager, and Mark very famously didn't like having the number 2 status at Red Bull. Maybe there's something in the contract that says they have to be on equal footing all the time. But surely then there'd be a caveat in that says, listen, unless we're in a championship position, but you can't wait until it's mathematically impossible for Oscar to win the championship. You have to be sensible, you have to be smart, and they're not being smart. It baffles me because they're going to throw it away, and you don't get these chances every year. You don't know when your next opportunity is going to come around, and they're going to throw it away, and they'll deserve to at the moment, because they're just not playing it smart. And with Ferrari on the pace that they had today, being close in the constructors as well, there's no guarantee McLaren are going to walk away. They've got to be smarter, and we've been saying this for months. I don't know how many more times we can keep saying it, because you can see with Lando, he was driving angry. The mistakes he was making, overdriving the car, hitting the bollard onto the way in the pits. That's a guy there who thinks he's been done over at the start of the race and thinking, why has this happened? How has this happened? You know, they're going to throw it all away. So now McLaren will be discussing whether to finally impose team orders. Luckily for McLaren, they have almost caught up to Red Bull in the Constructors' Championships. With another 8 races to go, the Papaya team is just 8 points behind Red Bull. Given the current form of the team, the odds are in McLaren's favour. This allows them to focus on helping Lando win the Drivers' Championship, but naturally they will need to have that conversation with Piastri to go easy on Lando to help him clinch the title. After a 1-week break, the drivers and teams will be heading to Baku for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Given the nature of the circuit, we could see McLaren have an advantage over Red Bull once again. However, we cannot count out Mercedes and Ferrari for the race win. Both the teams have made decent progress this season and have started to win races as well, but maybe just not as much progress as McLaren has made. With just 8 more races to go, Lando has to outscore Verstappen by about 8 points per race. He cannot do this without the help of his teammate Oscar Piastri. Unlike Red Bull, McLaren has both of their drivers fighting at the front. For Red Bull, Perez has been able to compete for the top. Do you think McLaren will finally enforce team orders to support Lando Norris in his championship fight against Max Verstappen? Post your thoughts in the comment section below.